Hi, thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to build a dialog with advanced routing logic. The eDialog module can be a very basic tool, or it can be used in a more complex or advanced way within your marketing efforts. You should be able to create a basic dialog with a bit of logic and routing built into the form. My hope is that by the end of this training, you will be able to add elements to your existing and future dialogs that will only add to the end user's experience. For clarification, a basic dialog is where there are usually 1 to 2 pages, and upon submission, they are being routed to a URL or another page. There may be a small amount of routing logic built into the next page logic, but that is about it. Some examples of complex dialogs would be where you have multiple pages built out, and the end user routed to particular pages based on how they answer the questions, based on URL parameters built into the dialog, or based on the parameter, checking for valid answers to your questions, and many more. We're again going to walk through building a dialog, and we're going to focus on the multiple pages and the multiple logic and the multiple options that you have when creating that logic. So we're going to start here under Select. We're in the Dialogs tab under Select, and we're going to create a new dialog. I'm going to give it a dialog name, which you always want to be something unique. I'm going to put in today's date and training. Dialog type is just for organization. We're going to leave it active, and we'll just copy and paste the name into the description. Now, when you are creating a dialog with advanced logic, you are probably not going to use the quick start options. You will probably choose a classic dialog, which will simply render one generic page, and then you build additional pages. I'm going to select Create in the upper right-hand corner, and it's going to take me into the dialog properties. Once I'm inside the dialog properties, I should already have it built out in my head how many pages I'm going to be needing. And the first thing that you want to do is you want to create all of those pages, because you cannot create the logic if the pages don't exist. So you see here, I have my very first page that was created for me. It's just a generic page that I'm going to modify. But I'm going to go ahead and build out all my other pages. So the way that I'm going to do this dialog is I'm going to need 3 additional pages. So I'm going to select New Page. This is going to be my very first one. And again, all I'm going to do is just create pretty much a placeholder. And then as I create the placeholders, I'll start back with page 1 and start modifying the properties to be accurate. So we'll call this page 2, and we'll call this Salesforce.com. This will tie into what I'm going to be making the page. We'll set some preferences here, and then we'll just say Save. Page saved. I know I'm safe to go back to the dialog and create another page. So I'm going to go back out. I'm going to create a 3rd page. We're going to select New Page. Again, I'm going to just quickly enter a name here. We'll call this page 3. We'll call this Microsoft CRM. Put that in there. Set a quick preference and save the page. Once it says page saved, we're going to go back out, and we're going to do it one more time. Again, you can have as many pages as you choose. You can have 2, you can have 5, you can have 10. At the end of today's training call, I'm going to show you an example of a customer that has created a very, very robust example of the dialogues and how it's been set up inside of their system. So this is going to be my page 4, and I'm going to call this my catch-all. Again, I'm going to put that into the description, and then I'm going to say Yes, Map to CRM. Hit Save. Okay? Return back out. And now we're going to start back on page 1. Now, page 1 is where the person is going to start off. So you can ask as many questions as you want here. You can gather basic information such as first name, last name, email. You can ask product interest, anything that you want on this particular page. I'm going to bring in a basic Contact Us question template, and then I'm also going to add one more additional field. The additional field that I'm going to add is going to be, what is your current CRM? So I'm going to select New Field here. I'm going to call this Current CRM, and I'm just going to copy and paste that into the field name. Okay? And then I'm going to say it's going to be a drop-down. Usually when you're doing advanced routing logic, you want to make sure that the field that it's being based off of is not a free-form field. Reason for that is because you're leaving the values up to the person's imagination. So even if you're doing it based on state, based on city, you want to give them options. You don't want to have them type it in. You will occasionally have people who for state put down the city or vice versa. So limiting the method for error is definitely going to help you out in the long run and make sure the person actually gets routed to the correct place. I'm going to go ahead and add in some options here. So I'm going to we'll do choose one, we'll do Salesforce.com, we'll do Microsoft CRM, we'll do Sage, and we'll do Sales Logics, and then we'll say Other. We're going to click on Add, and now these are the options that the people will be able to choose from. Click on Save, and our question is done. So questions are pretty easy. They are covered in the basic Dialog video and training class. So if you aren't sure about how to create a field or what types of fields you can create, definitely be sure to watch that video. We're then going to hop over to our skin, and the skin, as you know, is the look and feel that goes around the question. So I'm just going to type in, answer these questions, and then the content tag, of course, is where the questions will actually render. Save and publish saves your changes and tells you that the skin has been published and saved in the format. If you click on View Page, you'll be able to see your questions and your skin put together. Sometimes it, again, does take a quick moment. So there's my skin. Here's my questions. Here's my drop-down. Now what we need to do, and this is the whole purpose of today's training class, is add in the next page logic. I try to stress over and over in all my classes that it's really about, e-marketing is about getting the right message to the right person at the right time. If you can do that, then your chances of getting the person to engage and improving your open and click-through rates are going to be much higher. If you send me something that I have absolutely no interest in, I'm not going to open it. I'm not going to click on it. I'm not going to engage with it. So advanced routing logic allows you to do just that. So I'm going to click here on next page logic. And you can see there's nothing here right now, which means the system does not know where to send this person once they have actually completed the first page. But we're going to go ahead and tell the system where they're going to go. So we're going to select New, and you're going to get a pop-up box. And on this pop-up box, we're going to go ahead and set our preferences. So the condition name is just for internal purposes, does not render to anybody. So I'm going to call this one ifsalesforce.com. It's my abbreviation. Then you have to set your conditions. What condition needs to be met on this logic? So I come over here to the right-hand side, and I select Add New Condition. I choose the form that the questions are on, which is page 1. I choose the field that I'm basing the logic off of, which is going to be the current CRM. You choose your Boolean operator. Mine is going to be equals. And then, of course, you choose the value. So this one would be Salesforce.com. Then I hit Save. Now I'm saying if this condition is met, what is going to occur? That's when you come down and you say, then execute these commands. You can say go to form or go to URL. You can also say what form. So this one is going to be my Salesforce.com form. You can also even add them to a very specific trigger email. Again, specific message at a specific time. So instead of defaulting them to an overall, oh, this is what we do, here's what we, how we work, you can instead say, this is how we integrate with Salesforce.com because we know that you're using Salesforce.com. So why would I send you an email about Microsoft? So you can say add a trigger email. You can find your trigger email. You can even assign new leads to a particular owner. If Chad is the owner of all new Salesforce leads coming in, then I can have it defined right here on the next page logic that he is to become the owner of all new leads coming in through this form. It will not change existing records, only for new leads. Then I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. Oops. Pop-up box is getting a little crazy. And you'll see it added here. That's my first logic. So now I need to go ahead and do my next logic. I'm again select New. I'm I'm going to add in my conditions here. We're going to call this one if Microsoft. I'm going to add a condition. Again, I'm choosing the page the question is on, choosing the question, my operator, and of course my value, and hit save. Now that I have the condition, what is going to occur? On this one, I'm going to say it's going to go to a form, and it's going to go to my Microsoft form. I can say add to a completely different trigger and assign to a completely different owner. Save and close. Now, you don't have to do a logic for every possible option. If these are the only two that you really care about and you want to segregate and have specific things happen, but all the other ones you wanted to go into a general bucket, then you would create what we call a catch-all. The way the next page logic works is it works more in a waterfall effect, and it's going to run down the order of the logics and find a place for it to belong. So the next one I'm going to create is going to be my catch-all. So I'm going to, again, open up my pop-up box. I'm going to call this my catch-all. And this one is not going to have any conditions at all because everything else will automatically fall into this bucket. And I'm going to say go to form, and I'm going to choose my catch-all. Maybe I'll add them to a generic trigger, and then maybe I'll assign them to John Smith. The order here is very important as to how you set this up, because when somebody submits this form, we're going to start looking at order number one. Does the field current CRM equal Salesforce.com? If it does, they're going to be redirected to the Salesforce.com form. If not, we're going to look at logic number two. Does the current CRM field equal Microsoft? If it does, of course, they go to the Microsoft form. And if it doesn't, it will continue moving down the logics until it finds a place that it belongs. Since logic number three is our catch-all, and there are no conditions that it needs to be satisfied, the person would be routed into this one. If I had my catch-all as number one, everything would fall into that bucket and nothing would ever go into these two. So you do have to repeat the logic back to yourself to ensure that you have it set up properly. You can also route people to URLs, as I mentioned, and you can do a mix of them. This one could have been going to a form, while this one may have been routing to the Microsoft.com website. If I return back out to my dialog and we start looking at our pages, we realize that we have tied our pages together. Page one is now tied to all three of these pages based on the logic. If we come over here, one of our tools that we have is a visual aid tool called the flow diagram. Using the flow diagram, a lot of people don't use it until they start doing advanced logic. And the reason for that is because you can come in here and you can get a tree view of how everything is tied together. You can see here, page one, if these conditions are met, then we're going to go to page two. Condition is current CRM equals Salesforce. If it does, we go to page two. This one down here is saying if the current CRM equals Microsoft, then we go to page three, which is Microsoft CRM. And then, of course, we have our last logic with no conditions, and everybody would go to page four. I can get as robust with this as I choose to. I could then have page two, Salesforce, upon submission of that form, going to URL. Then Microsoft, maybe I'll have them going to a different form. Then maybe on page four, I'll have them going to a generic thank you. Again, it's all about getting the information that you need, making it as seamless and easy for the end user as possible, and, of course, getting the right message. I want to show you a couple examples. This is an example of a customer in Australia, and they have a very basic advanced routing logic set up. This is their contact us form with some standard information, first name, last name, company, email, etc. But they have one question here, finance. Do you need to finance the rental or purchasing of the construction equipment? If no, they go to a thank you page. If yes, they then get sent to a subsequent page asking for financial information. How much are you looking to borrow? When are you looking to pay this back in? How many people are going to be on the loan processing? Again, this is saving their team time from filling out a generic contact us form, saying, oh, they need financing. Now I need to send them all the paperwork. Now I need to send them all the information. It's taking that step out. That's a manual step. By me doing this, I choose yes. I automatically go to a subsequent page where all that information is right there, making it easier on the end user because they can do it all in one step, also making it easier on the sales team. So this is a great example of how you can use some basic advanced routing logic. Now I do want to show you an example of a customer that has gone, again, above and beyond with what you can do with the advanced routing logic. This is their tree view. They are using this as a travel request form to be used internally. So when their sales team has somewhere that they need to go, they have to fill this out. They start on page 1, and on page 1 they're asking, okay, what is your name, what is your phone number, what is your email, and then how many places are you needing to go? And they have options of 1 destination, 2 destination, up to 5. Down here, you can see that the logic is telling them, okay, if these conditions are met, and it's saying how many separate destinations, and it's saying, 1, 2, 3, all the way down, and then it's going to the appropriate page. The 1 destination page is only asking for information for 1 trip. 2 destinations obviously has information for 2 trips, 3 trips, 4 trips, 5 trips. Upon submission of each of these, you then go to another page. And on the next page, it's asking them some additional basic information. So you can see how very robust this can really get. You can also end up routing people back to the same page at the end of the day. So even though somebody may have chose 1 destination and I chose 5 destinations, we get separated to go to the appropriate page. Upon submission of that page, we then might go back to a general thank you page where it's asking additional information. Do you need to rent a car? Do you need to rent a GPS? Are you bringing another employee with you? There's many, many different ways that you can do this. As always, I'd like to thank you for joining me. We do have our online help that I would like to direct you to. We have under the Toolbox tab within your Sales Fusion account, our Learning Management Center. If you've never accessed this before, when you click on it, you will need to register and create your own username and password. Once that has been created, you will be able to access the Learning Management Portal where you will have access to the live training schedules, manuals, tips and tricks, and of course the recorded videos. We also have an online help manual, and this is a great reference tool to keep on hand. You can see we also have some quick starts. If you're new to Sales Fusion, these are great items to go through and give yourself a walkthrough, sort of like a lab. It's very step-by-step, so we're telling you step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way through. If you have any questions, please feel free to email support@salesfusion.com, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day.